Hello and welcome back to Automation Answers. Today brought to you from Atlanta, Georgia. We're at the Modex event. Been a busy event so far. And with me to my right hand side is Fred Marten, the Vice President of Project Management from KNAPP America. So Fred, firstly, it's a pleasure having you on. I know you're a busy man. How are things? How are you getting on?
Exciting.
Yeah, good.
Really excited to do this podcast.
Good to hear. And I think it's your first day, obviously, at Modex. You've just arrived. Anything interesting you've seen so far? If you've managed to walk around, any cool technologies?
Yeah. So really, it's been interesting to see the harmonious interaction of systems that actually, when coupled with humans, can really result in something that is much more technically advanced than when I experienced coming up through Vanderlande and so forth.
Yeah.
But yes, the automation controls coupled with AI has been made leaps and bounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, we'll go into a bit more detail about the topic of the podcast, which is how to launch a successful project and draw the comparisons from one of your customers to see how it works from the integrator versus the other side of the fence with the end customer. But just touch on what you said. I'm sure most people watching and listening will know of you within the industry. You've been in the world a very long time. But I guess just take me back through to your experience from Vanderlande to Schaefer to now KNAPP. I guess, how have things changed? What's it been like for you?
So that's interesting. You know, I got into controls and automation because it was exciting. I wanted to make things that are really cool. And the fact of the matter is, automation with AI has, like I said earlier, has really stepped it up. The fact of the matter is, intelligent robotic solutions is where it's at the moment. Robots themselves can do the monotonous task. You and I talked about that, where it can be very highly reliable and whatnot, whereas the humans, they are more flexible with new requirements and so forth. And so the coupling of the two, when I started, it was more disparate systems. Okay. And so now the coupling of the two, actually symbiotically working together, actually results in a situation that will help with the situation that we're seeing in the market today.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. No, that's good to see. And I guess moving on to more the subject of the podcast and the conversation about launching a successful project and where you've been, a successful project 20 years ago, maybe to a successful project now. How, in terms of from start to finish, we'll kind of jump through some of the phases. It's a very, very long process. But I guess the initial communication in terms of working with the customer, getting the original order, the data analysis, how do you combine with your sales team and the projects team to initially launch, or the first phases of a project or a new facility?
Yeah, so that's interesting. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about the customer, right? And so you need to understand what is their value proposition to their customer, and how is it that we as KNAPP can actually help them. And so it's about listening to them and understanding their business case. And we actually have several steps in that process, where first understanding, we kind of go through a customer journey where we want to understand what is it that they want to achieve with regards to automation, because you have some customers that have no experience with automation in their warehouse, or some that have semi-automation and so forth. And where do they really want to go? What's the value proposition for them? And so forth. And then once you understand that, then you take a step back and then understand what is their process within the warehouse. And we go through a detailed analysis of several days, where we're actually putting our SMEs, subject matter experts, with them in understanding what their processes are currently and what their processes could be in the future as well. And once we come to understand that, then we can then dive into the data analysis. This is where all the data comes in, and we'll do a thorough research of that, and perhaps do some simulations and whatnot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, where we want to do is provide a solution that culturally fits for them, that operationally fits for them. the fact of the matter is, KNAPP, we're technologically agnostic. Yes, we have our portfolio of equipment and systems, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we're by no means have everything.
Yeah.
And so we may introduce third-party machineries or systems in conjunction with ours, and them symbiotically aligning together.
Yeah.
Or we don't have anything, and we will inform them, you know what, probably we're not the right ones for you. So really it starts with a solution, and you'd be surprised, we're not really focusing on the price or the cost.
Yeah. Interesting. No, I think that's quite fascinating. What you mentioned earlier, where you go to a customer, like you said, you've got the huge global players in the market that everyone will know, like Target, Walmart, Amazon, that invest hundreds of millions, even billions into automation. But if you go to more of a smaller provider, a semi-automated facility, or a warehouse that's never even seen a conveyor or a robot or an OSR before, I guess it's about how you walk them through that process, right? So,
right.
And then deciding from the data analysis and the solution, what do they need? And like you said, what's best for them? Do you use your own solutions? Do you work with a third party? And so forth. So no, that's good to know. And I guess piggybacking off of that, once you've done your data analysis, you've collaborated with the customer, you've got a good idea of what they want and what they need. How does that then translate in terms of the technologies and implementing that into the project?
Yeah, so that's interesting because we actually serve quite a number of different markets. And so once we understand what the solutions are, we actually foster the connectivity within our vertical market. And so there could be best practices from, say, the retail that could help in the grocery, or vice versa, or something within fashion that can actually help within the industry solutions and so forth. And so we try to bring in and couple what best practices that we have had and experiences and so forth. And in some instances, we may actually use technologies that are better served in one particular industry, but because it's going to be used a certain way, we may actually use it in another market sector. And I've seen that over the years at KNAPP, how that's been very quite interesting, actually.
Awesome. That's good to hear. And one of the technologies as well, you mentioned the retail space earlier, and it's at the Modex booth that you're showing, and I assume it'll be at Logimat as well, and the one in the UK, is the auto pocket sorter, which I've seen at the next facility in the UK as well, which is brilliant, and a very new system of yours. Are you able to talk me through that? What's the benefits, the advantages? How would that look to a customer? What's the benefit of that? What's the sell?
Yeah, so the pocket sorter, interestingly enough, or hanging sorter, however the industry calls it, is actually quite useful, especially in the e-commerce space, or definitely with regards to the situation where you need high-performing reliability, high accuracy, heavy in the sortation. And so, in regards to e-fulfillment, for example, or in fashion, this hanging sorter is actually useful. There's actually two advantages. One is in order fulfillment, where you need to bring in goods from various parts of the facilities, from different areas of the facilities. It could be goods to person, it could be a pick module, or what have you. And at the same time, or it could be, depending on the velocity of the regularity of the use of the goods and whatnot, you could have the fast movers that are actually then coupled with the slow movers. And the beauty of the hanging sorter is that there's a dynamic buffer that it will actually buffer the fast movers until the slow movers are actually brought in. And so once you've coupled the entire goods together and fulfill the order, then it goes. So it can be from different places or different times. Within the order fulfillment.
Excellent.
And that's what actually makes it quite interesting. And from batch picking, frankly, you can preload the dynamic buffer with the goods the SKUs that are most popular, and you just have it there until when it's necessary, and it becomes readily available when needed.
Of course.
And I've seen it where it's probably useful in the returns. You yourself have seen our facility next in the UK, and that's actually used in the returns there as well. So what happens is goods that come in, once they're inspected and it's in saleable condition, it's immediately put into a dynamic buffer and readily available for an order right then and there. So there's so many uses for the hanging sorter. The beauty of the auto pocket that we are showing in Modex right now is that it actually automatically opens up.
Excellent,
so it just puts it in a different level now where you can actually sort and convey and actually open up to accurately pinpoint accuracy because of the RFID technology into a specific location at full system speed. So now what you have is the hanging sorter with the as an auto pocket actually becoming useful for broad areas like an outbound sorter.
Wow, it's a game changer.
It is a game changer.
Absolutely. And that, for those that don't know, that's obviously from your collaboration and partnership with KNAPP. So how does that strengthen the KNAPP portfolio? I guess obviously from a customer point of view, obviously the benefits you just mentioned there, it's very, very clear. And the diversity and the flexibility as well that you can offer customers, I think is amazing in their outbound returns wherever they see it fit within their process. But are you able to talk us through the collaboration or partnership with KNAPP and the KNAPP brand?
Yeah, so KNAPP is a subsidiary of ours. We were fortunate in acquiring them back in the early 2000s, and they've been extremely helpful, especially in fashion, where you're dealing with flat packs or something that's loose and whatnot. And so it's been actually very useful in the utilization of that particular system. Like I said, great in fashion, but I happen to actually utilize that system in another project from a different market sector where it was more electronic goods.
Excellent.
So not even fashion.
Again, showing the flexibility and
Absolutely.
diversity, which I guess is so important to different customers, right? So
and that's the reason why, like I said earlier, we foster the vertical market connectivity because essentially it's whatever that's in our portfolio of technological systems.
Absolutely. And how we're speaking a lot, obviously, about new technologies, how to the new sexy stuff that is what the sales team are not pushing to customers, but that's what I guess they're going to be drawn to. How do you balance between your team and the projects and delivering the new innovations, the amazing technologies, the R&D team and the sales team are bringing to the market, and the design team as well behind the scenes? How do you balance the innovation and launching those projects versus what's already there and maybe some of the more old school traditional processes that are, I guess, still needed?
So yes, it can exist in the same facility. You do have facilities where parts of their processes may be less autonomous than others. But in the execution of it, while the technology that we're seeing today is sexy, if you will, the actual execution of those projects are the same. It's mundane. It's benign. And nothing has really changed in terms of projects.
Excellent. I think that's really important because I guess with these typically, any new technology that's launched, not just in logistics with electric vehicles, for example, any new technologies, there's teething problems, right? That's what happens. So I guess it's about coupling that versus the reliability. That's what's most important for the customers, because 10 minutes, 20 minutes of downtime in a fashion or e-commerce or any environment to the customer that's a nightmare. That can't happen, right? And that's
Correct.
Really, really not good. So I guess you need to balance the innovation, the new technologies that can bring their business forward, help the efficiency, but also ensuring that it's the R&D team, the design team have made it as bulletproof and reliable as possible. Like say so, the efficiency and the productivity is there.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why during the sales process there's a thorough research of the analysis of the data, of the business case and the use case, and at the same time how it's going to be used operationally. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, is it going to be fully automated where it's hands off, or will there require a certain amount of manipulation from operators? And so in that situation, then culturally, does it mix?
Absolutely. And I guess stepping back and moving away from the advanced technologies and the in-depths and the ins and outs of the project itself for a retail customer, from a broader spectrum, what are some of the the critical phases of the project that you and your project teams follow?
So that's a very good question. Regardless of the technology, it all starts with the planning. First of all, it starts with having a crystal clear understanding of the goal.
Yeah.
What is the end goal of the customer, of the project? How is this of value to the customer?
Yeah.
And so then once that's understood, then really it's all in the planning. Understanding that goal relative to the plan of the anticipation, the expectation of the customer. And from there, it becomes really standard methodology. But really at project initiation, clearly that is the most important part of the project. If the understanding is not clear, then the outcome will be unclear as well.
Of course. No, that's great to know. And I think as well, you mentioned the planning, the previous podcast I did with your customer next, you mentioned, I think in the ideal world, you may see it on LinkedIn, there's on the go live of a new project, there's confetti, there's celebrations, they're cutting the ribbon, etc. that happens, but it's the planning and the stages, you don't just have one customer call and then a warehouse goes live, right? There's a number of different stages and it's more gradual. You run it 10%, 20%. Again, aligning to the customer's needs. Right. And then you have maybe more of an anticlimactic, I guess, go live date, but that's the efficient way and that's how it's done. So that's really interesting to see you from the planning until the go live.
Right.
And I guess on that subject, on the go live date, and where do you see in terms of wider issues that you and your team can't influence? How do you overcome some of the issues that just happen in the world that affect some of your projects? So I guess in the UK, we had Brexit that really failed a lot of customers, and it was very hard to import different materials, etc. Obviously, you had the war in Russia that affected a number of different things. COVID as well that stopped the supply of a number of different parts, etc. You might have bad weather causing impact on the warehouse, can't put the conveyors in on time. A number of problems that a customer might face. How do you guys, I guess you can't plan for everything, but how do you try and work around them?
Yeah, very important question, because we've all experienced disruption in the past several years, and disruption that nobody in dealing with projects would ever have thought that you would have to deal with pandemic or global supply chain issues or whatnot. So going back to the planning and understanding what are the critical paths relating to the overall plan, the next most important thing is to actually understand all the risk and managing risk. So this is where you need to do your risk analysis and understanding what are the weaknesses, what are the threats associated to the project. Of course, nobody's going to be able to foresee that there's going to be a pandemic so forth. But there are other things from experience that you can understand, hey, this may be a little more rigorous than others, or what if this you don't have the resource for this, what do you do? So in understanding the critical path, then the next phase is managing risk.
Of course.
And there you would do whatever analysis, be a SWOT analysis or whatnot, and then do the qualitative, quantitative measures as to what mitigations can you actually implement to be able to do that. And then you have a risk management plan. And from there, then you control and measure the outcome of the projects through various gates, timelines within the project. Is what you're expecting now is what you're getting now, or not, or do you have to pivot and whatnot? And interestingly enough, I do have an example where I did have a project with a hanging sorter and an OSR shuttle for a customer that was, I would say, somewhat semi-autonomous, wanting to go autonomous with goods-to-person technology, with a pocket sorter technology, and really cool stuff. But at the same time, we were also redoing his WMS system. So it wasn't just a WCS system, the layer that controls the machinery and the systems, but actually that made the connectivity to the ERP system, the business of this particular customer. And so we actually had in the planning where we were going to go live with the WMS and the material handling system.
Okay. Yeah.
And we didn't know that we were going to hit a pandemic or resource, that was going to be locked out from the country and whatnot. We are an international company. And so as a global company, we bring all our resources from wherever. Here in the States, it could be Czech Republic, wherever. And so as we were executing this, the project team and I, we evaluated all our risks. We knew what our risks were. And what we knew of our risk was that, to go live, to have a big bang of a major software implementation that affects the business, as well as the bringing up this highly automated system that affects their operation. It's like, that's a risk right there. What can we do? And so after we did the planning, we said, you know what, we need to decouple it.
Okay.
So we decided to go with a go live A and a go live B.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we decided, you know what, it's best that we actually implement the warehouse management system first, the business side of things, and get that actually out and working. And of course, we had our issues and whatnot, and that was actually, so that was around January, February 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were trending already about 10 weeks early in that project.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happened March 13th, 2020?
Yeah, I think we all do.
All the borders closed up. Okay? All of a sudden, people that we had here can't go home. People that we expected to come couldn't come in. And whatnot.
Yeah.
And so everybody that actually was in the project, they actually got locked down, and we had to manage those resources and so forth. And sometimes we had to do things remotely and whatnot. So we had to pivot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we were able to continue commissioning the material handling part of the system.
Excellent. Yeah.
Because we had already executed and implemented, and the software system was already up and alive.
Wow. Okay.
And as a result of that, we were able to just focus on the one area that we've taken out the risk, and now we're focusing on the risk of the pandemic. And we executed the material handling system, and then we were able to couple the two.
Excellent. Wow.
And we were 8 weeks early.
There we go.
So that's what happens when you do a proper analysis of the risk that you do know. Focus on the ones that you do know, because you have no idea of any geopolitical issues or global scares.
Yeah, of course. And I think one of my final or kind of closing points to this podcast and interview would be, how do you, without putting words into your mouth, how do you define, or you personally or your team define a successful project? Is one of those key points the planning? I would assume that's what we've really spoken on a lot. Is that the golden ticket? Is that the secret?
Well, a successful project, first of all, you need to actually meet the goals of the project. So what are and at the same time, have you provided value to the customer? In meeting the goals of the project, you have the triple constraint of essentially time, cost, and quality. And so, did you deliver it on time? Did you deliver it within the cost? And is it of quality? And then, if those three actually happen, you hope that the business case has actually been resolved with the new system that you've delivered. And that, to me, is a successful project.
Awesome. Good to hear. And I think my final question, I haven't necessarily prepared you for, so maybe a bit off-piste. Where do you see let's say the next 5-10 years? What do you expect to see in the automation industry? I know when we spoke a bit off camera, there's a lot in the humanoids, a lot in drone technology, etc. A lot of noise going on, a lot of great technologies. You walk around Modex, you see hundreds of new technologies that you've probably never seen before. What do you see? Is there anything that really excites you that you think might play a really big part of the logistics world? Or
well, AI is going to be the thing that actually drives these smart technologies. That is not necessarily going to take away labor, but more supplement the labor. The fact of the matter is, with COVID, everybody realized that there was going to be a shortage of labor.
Of course.
And that's what was the driving factor with regards to automation and control, and everybody went down that road. But the fact of the matter is, we're still there because we have a problem in that we have a boomer generation that's retiring.
Of course.
Significantly. And so the fact is, labor is going to be an issue that needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
And so it's going to require more automation where the two can symbiotically work together.
Yeah.
It's about being able to put the very important labor component at the areas that are needed and take away the monotonous areas, the things that require high reliability, and give those to the robots or the humanoids.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well,
so I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Well, like I said, you see walking around Modex, you see some amazing technologies, and every year there seems to be something new and some form of development or advancement from the last one. So it's going to be very impressive, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Fred, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. It's great to finally connect. So again, this has been the podcast with Fred Marten, the Vice President of Project Management from KNAPP. Fred, it's been brilliant having you on, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Fred. Cheers.
Okay, cheers.